There are three categories there: how the afflictions arise, how you thereby accumulate karma, and then how you die and are reborn. So the first category, which is the how the afflictions arise, there are four categories. First, the identifying the afflictions. The second category, the order in which the afflictions arise. Third category, the causes of those afflictions. And then the fourth category, the faults of the afflictions. So those are the four categories under how the afflictions arise. And then in the first category, the identifying the afflictions, we find that there are two categories, the identifying the afflictions in a general way or the universal way, and then identification of them individually, or the individual afflictions. So those are the two categories that we find under that first point, how the afflictions arise.
What did you say?
Digsong.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, what did you say?
And this the Shedang Susur, the Lamrim Chenmo Sache, you're it.
Okay. Sajil, what the Karsa? Yamu was what the Jetaji, Yamu Junior Yamiji.
Lesso.
Tatambo, Yamu was what Yamushi, Susu sending your mother.
Silver Lobsang.
Sajil Sibu
to Chena.
What the Rendua. Tatambo, what the Chenny do what about the telling us what about the Mare.
Okay.
Yeah.
Listen. So this is where we will begin on how the afflictions arise, how they arise generally, how generally the general afflictions arise, and then how the specific or individual afflictions arise.
What the cattle germ to Kunosebi, the hotel Jaji, Mrs. Sajidimudu.
So because this is a very clear section, Jayan Sheba didn't find the need to comment on it because Lama Tsongkhapa made it clear. So we're going to read the Lamrim Chenmo now.
Nisan Yu Son Rendua. That number what the Nyomoba G. Twiddle, Nyomoba G. Twiddle, which is Saji Sonda Mare, what that doesn't legislation or that. Nyomoba G. Twiddle, Nyomoba G. Twiddle, what the But there is a quadruple late on Yomobani, quadruple Joe late on Yomobani Waris. Quadruple Joe late on Yomobani Waris, the two Yomores. Two Yomo. Yomores, and Yomomena, Quapenji lay over in a quality of Lantumares. Saben Yanaya, Southern Children Lumena, and then the Witcher to Umdua, Tendabares.
So it says reflection on, so page 298, reflection on the process of cyclic existence in terms of its origin. It says the origin of cyclic existence is explained in three parts. How the afflictions arise, how you thereby accumulate karma, and then how you die and are reborn. So we begin with the first category of how the afflictions arise. It says karma and the afflictions are both necessary as the causes for the creation of cyclic existence, but the afflictions are primary. What the point here is that if you have the propelling karma, which will give rise to a rebirth in cyclic existence, but the afflictions are not present, then it's not possible for that existence to arise. Just like a seed needs earth, it needs water, it needs light, all of these things in order to sprout. The propelling karma requires the afflictions in order to produce the result, produce the experience within cyclic existence.
Khensur ju du sabi ne legwa de mago le tran de ba yo jang len dans sala subi suba me bi sabenji nyogo muruba jindos ane 사변 라수바 가서 렌던 살라수바 사변 여바이나 초단 류 살라수바도 좀 해바이나 아니 여기 저 도 말어
Lessa.
example
이거 주바지.
레라 해지제 매베레라 레드 코안도 주드 레제 들 해지제 녀모레스 녀모 해지제 녀모 매베 도겐지 녀고 문도비스 해지제 녀모 매바인 자좀바 수줄레 나 코아벤지가 레모미오아레스 코알 조알랑 말카르스나 해지제 녀모 본사버레스 녀모
공개 매크치 다좀바 줄라
코아벤지가 레요
코아펜지레 녀모요.
코알 제토마레스
오케이. 제토.
가르스나 코아벤지가 해지제 녀모 매베스 오케이 말베 야
Clenchi Chechen Mebejer. Okay. Okay, Tuchina. So it says, 4, just as a seed without moisture, soil, etc., will not produce a sprout, so in the absence of the afflictions, even though you have accumulated immeasurable karma in the past, there will be no sprout of suffering because the karma lacks the necessary cooperating conditions. So the afflictions serve as a cooperating condition that must be present in order for the arisal of a birth in cyclic existence, this experience of cyclic existence. And for an ordinary person or a foe destroyer, this is the case, because a foe destroyer has within his or her continuum the actual propelling or throwing karma of cyclic existence that will give rise to cyclic existence. But they don't have the cooperating conditions present to give rise to that experience. Therefore, they are not reborn into cyclic existence. Even though they still have these seeds, they still have these predispositions of karma, propelling karma, they no longer have the affliction, so that there no longer is a cooperating condition, and if the cooperating condition is not present, then the result doesn't exist. The result can't occur. So that is the point up to there. Dixon. The Rinpoche, Chiran Susu Jewel, the Gaishine Lasan.
Dada Jumba to Copenhagen led Susu to Sagar to Copenhagen led public Saba Yomaro. Demba Tula Pemba Mess, Sidon Teleyan Siemens, Demba Gonsum Tonsang Papi Jula, Copenhagen Lesa Yomaris, Demba Tula Pemba Mess.
Sarpa.
Saba. Maki. Sadu Maki. No what Yomaris. Demba Tula Pemba Me, Papa Soge, and the Copenhagen Lesa Yomaris, Copenhagen led Susu to Sabares.
Lessa.
Susu to Sajabate, and what the Dutch Vijula de Bacha Duares.
Le yene the Dajomba the Koapenji le the Jula Yure yene the Nyomo Yomarin. Okay, so we'll do. So an ordinary being is the only individual that accumulates the throwing karma that gives rise to cyclic existence. But it's during that ordinary being's time when he or she is accumulating it that those seeds are present. So then if the being becomes a foe destroyer, they have those present, but they no longer have the afflictions that give rise to the experience of cyclic existence, nor do they have the motivator that gives rise to those afflictions which propel those karmas, which are propelling karmas for cyclic existence. So an ordinary being has these and accumulates these karma, whereas a foe destroyer only has them from before, but doesn't accumulate any more because those cooperating conditions aren't there. Dixon, let me check.
What you lay you man out called to my Nyomu Yuna and Nyomu Yuna Ling has up a man chance. Nyomu Yuna Ling has up a man chance. Nyomu Kuno Tamata the Lesa and call Kuris. Nyomu Yuna ane le ngasa ba me jang tamata sato le sa yung res nyomu ko no le sa yung res ne pombo shema le bi shiros konga ba yo res na ta yang pe chuji ta bi sung res ta na den le chama na den le cbc le na gi le jen phen ni mai de tanji she ba se shiros CBC le nagis Sibas no Koa Marebe Sansara Siba Thomas Koa Ji Sansara Ji CBC le Ku Siba Niba de Chal Gogoro de Chamarebe CB de Chat Bomba Ina CBC le Nagi Yu ne Dajon tu CBC le Nagi Roku ne de Chat Bon Sabarwa CBC le Nabagewa ku deja ponsabrowa le rajum bijula le yoarete ne joa shema koal joa penu mares penu maide sanji je nyomu ponsembe sanji je ba sejoros what the nande what the sondua
to channel a further a reason afflictions are primary is because even without previously accumulated karma, if afflictions are present, you immediately accumulate new karma. So if there are afflictions there, then you will accumulate that new karma. So in the case of the foe destroyer, no longer has those afflictions, so doesn't, but an ordinary being has those, so therefore immediately accumulates new karma and will thereby appropriate aggregates in the future. So there will necessarily be a future rebirth. So where does this come from? If someone were to say, posit the source of this information, we would respond by saying Dharmakirti's Pramanavartika Karika, which is Dharmakirti's commentary on the Compendium of Valid Cognition. And here we find a quote that says, karma of one who has transcended craving for existence lacks the potency to project another birth because its cooperating conditions are gone. So if we were to look at this in terms of like a syllogism, we would say the subject, a foe destroyer, is one who has transcended craving for existence. Even though they have this throwing karma which for cyclic existence, or that creates cyclic existence, they don't project another rebirth. Why don't they project another rebirth? Because the karma, that karma, propelling karma of cyclic existence, lacks the potency to project another birth. Why does it lack the potency to project another birth? Because its cooperating conditions are gone. Because the afflictions are no longer present, there's no possibility of a rebirth occurring. Because there's no longer attachment. It says transcended craving for existence. Because the foe destroyer no longer has attachment, he or she doesn't have a birth into cyclic existence, because that karma doesn't have the potency, because the cooperating conditions aren't present. The afflictions are not present. So this is how we show a proof that the subject, a foe destroyer, has transcended rebirth in cyclic existence, because he or she has transcended the afflictions, transcended attachment, and therefore their karma for cyclic existence lacks potency and will not give rise to cyclic existence because the cooperating conditions aren't present. So that's the way it would look in terms of Rinpoche is using like debate format. So that's how you would look at it. You would use this quote and look at it in terms of debate. The subject, this foe destroyer, has transcended craving for cyclic existence. Therefore, so that's how they would break this down, just as a translator's note.
Siba yuena ane siba yuena layang yongshiros siba nyumu yuena lekha saba meba ina yang ane sadu lesa ne kwal kuyung res siba yuena layang yongshiro. So
then it says, and also, because the aggregates will arise again if you have craving. So if there is craving present, one will necessarily have another rebirth in cyclic existence. The aggregates will arise again. One will have another rebirth if the afflictions are present, if craving, if attachment is present, then one will necessarily accumulate, that's it, if the attachment is present, one will necessarily accumulate the throwing karma for cyclic existence. Dikson.
Ta nipa de nyomu pong gures, nyomu pong bala nyomu ngase gures, nyomu ngase go te kana ten ko nusna ti shir nyomu be nyeba ten ba ke chala sa nyomu pong bala nyomu be nyeba ten ba ke chures ke chala te nyomu shebala ane nyomu shebala ra lebes ane nyomu bat kane yeme de shegures shebala ra lebe nyomu na la keba shawus ane nyomu ba naja ane nyomu ba shedan sheda hote chamal keba chegures yabu sheba chegu de ni badre
lesa the tambo gare
tambo de imba tambo de nyomu ngozo wa de marbe tambo nyomu ngozo wa de ba nyomu ti le so bi ti la tambo keba njoasa nyomu ba ta nyomu bi ni je tu nyomu ba yin des nyomu ba yin tambo de marbe tu nyomu ba yin
okay
le to nyomu ba ni ga na tu nyomu re tambo je
the nipa
ta nipa nyomu pon go re nyomu pon ba la nyomu she go re te nipa je
so when we did Jaya Sheba so then okay so now when we get to this part right here I just want to back up just to how the afflictions arise in Jaya Sheba there is outline here. So how the afflictions arise, the outline begins with first of the two, the afflictions and karma. The afflictions are the root. So that's the first presentation. And then the second presentation in the outline is one needs to get rid of the afflictions. So one needs to abandon the afflictions. So one must rely on a remedy. So this is the second part of that outline. Ni yire somyomare.
Taniro ta sombandere ta nyomu chuchu tenla bebala jere jetom.
Okay.
What in the la jesatre?
Less so. Okay, so then there's a third category which is it says moreover, since this requires understanding the afflictions, you should become knowable about the afflictions. There are 4 parts to this. So here, this is where you should be knowable, meaning you should know the general points about the afflictions, the general afflictions, universal. It's not universal afflictions. It says the universal. The broader kind of look at the afflictions, and then a specific look at afflictions. But the look at really isn't in there. But it's a general and then specific. And then we do so by these 4. Then we learn then through these 4 categories, which is all in category number 3. These 4 parts. Where we have identifying the afflictions, the order in which they arise, the causes of the afflictions, and then the faults of the afflictions. So they like kangal Geshe Lharampa.
Oh yeah. Nyomu ba chi chutla wa nyomu ba chi chutla le da nyomu ba ni ga na tu nyomu re tambo che.
Of the 2.
Ta ni ba de wa de nyomu pong go re nyomu pong wa nyomu le kheba nyomu she go re ni ba je. Ta somba de wa de ane nyomu ngo zo marbe ane nyomu
Somba de ewaje.
Somba tero
Somba ewaje. Rebe.
Somba nyomu ba chi chu le so bi chu chibo wa da ni san ji chu de marbe chibo wa de ni san ji chu de marbe
de je
chibo ni san ji chu de la je.
Okay.
Terbe
Then they chedan the chedrag the kabiore the sache ula okay
tela nyomu ta nyomu ngo zon ata 다 송바들어 송바들 녀몽 ngozuwa
So the
녀몽 ngozuwa 달라 지마
Tambo Nipa Sumba
제다
Gare
지림바 녀몽 지조
June
녀몽비 녀미
Nyeme.
사지지 되고도지
Lesso.
들 사지지 되송아
Lesso.
야
So we get to the third category. It says there are 4 parts to this: identifying the afflictions, the order in which they arise, the causes of the afflictions, and the faults of the afflictions. So these are the 4 categories that will explain this third category. So we need to become knowable, understanding general afflictions and specific. Okay. So now we get into the generals and the specifics. So we'll have now identifying the afflictions. So we have the general definition of the afflictions, and then the specific definition of the afflictions.
Kaba song yuwares na saga gundul song yuwares gundule chu gan jongwa na chu gan yuwa da rad maji cheni je don jongwa de rad maji cheni je don jongwa de ten jong shong yu sen ji ju rad maji wa jongwa de nyomo be cheni she dos ne 상가게 군뒤 가서 요모 붙이니 인데 잔도스 senjuro도 맞아 실리지 sen주 요모 세니 마도 로리 도스 니여도 말아 senju로스 맞아 실리지 sen주 요모 세니레스 요모 세니 what 수송 버스나 상가 군뒤로 송 버스 군뒤 쇼서는 데레스다 군뒤레 녀모반네 로도 마저와시비 senju rodo majowashi shelejin sanju sende den de gndwa nyomo ban rodo majowashi cheni donjong de sa senju rodo majowashi shelejin sanju de bana ngaso control lanso da wat sen ga de beje ma ro da ngaje lanso na na sen chi majiba ji ro majiba de yo ma res ne de sha do control da tamo da wat de kar jul chesuna senju rodo majowashi shelejin sanju zan nyomo res nyomo yed senju rodo majowashi shelejin sanju yembejer what that go maro what that ane cheni su sombar스나 상가 군들로 손도스 군들레 추강 추강 중화나 ane 녀모 강 senju 중화나 로도 마저 senju 로도 마저 와시베 cheni도 중데스 senju 로도 마저 와시베 셀레진 senju도 용거레스 녀모서 그레스 대종유 senji ju rodo majoate ane sen debuyo maris de chadon control lanson senji buyo marota ta gande mado chawo marbe te jonyu senji chaba rodo majowa ne jongwate nyomo be cheni dos kundu lo to son dos ta sheson batara wata jerma chigo de seshe yimbare kan jul cheba na yomod kan jul cheba na na julen je kan ra rodo ma senju rodo ma jo senju debu yomares madewa shebe shele jin senju de yomore son bares sheba wo wata yomog seni de tang dos senju rodo ma jo shele jin senju yomog seni wata lori to so ne marbe
Nene lorig the samjong gitseni?
Senta sajung khatu de nyomung cheni de jasa juer o de to so inje lura in lori in jiwer.
Okay. So now we get to the first category, identifying the afflictions, and then we have the general definitions and then specific definitions. So we first have a quote from Asanga's Compendium of Knowledge that gives the general definition of an affliction. So if someone were to say, posit the definition of affliction, then we would use this definition. And also you'll find in the mind and awareness text, the Lorig text, the definitions of these things as well, the definitions of mental mind and mental factors, and the definitions of afflictions and so forth. So it says here, an affliction is defined as a phenomena that when it arises is disturbing in character, and that through arising disturbs the mind stream. So this affliction is something that when it occurs, it doesn't feel good. The mind becomes unpleasant. Just becomes unpleasant. So we know that when we get angry, we can see this disruption to our mind stream. We can see how this becomes unpleasant in our mind. Or when we become very, very prideful, we can see this disruption in our mind. We can see this this feeling which is not pleasant, this unpleasant feeling. And when any among those three poisons arise, when we have attachment, when we have hatred or aversion, or when we have this ignorance that arises, we have kind of an unpleasant feeling that occurs. So how do we know that it's affliction? We know that it's affliction because it disturbs our mind. We know that it's an affliction because when it arises, it feels unpleasant. Our mind doesn't feel good. So therefore, we know that it's an affliction. That's the qualification for that. When we look to try to find and understand what an affliction is, then we first have to define that main word, affliction, and then we get into the more individual definitions of the afflictions. That's all right.
차도 용거래 나제 용거래 콘트 용거래 어때 쿠jen시네 senju majo 정도와
The trado control ducha yuna trado
대샤라 때는 콘트 용거래 차도 용거래 어때 senju로도 majo 정도와
cause. Okay. So for instance, independence upon attachment, then miserliness arises or anger arises. So we see all of these things that arise in dependence upon an affliction. And how do we know that it's affliction? We know that it's affliction because what it gives rise to is disturbing to our mind. So here we have a case where we're attached, and then we have miserliness, or we have anger. We can see how that disturbs our mind. So therefore, because it's disturbing to our mind, it is necessarily an affliction. If it's something within the mind stream. So it says, an affliction is a phenomenon that when it arises is disturbing in character, and that through arising disturbs the mind stream. So it's inferred within that it's arising in the mind stream. So when that's, I just wanted to clarify that, because you could say that there's, something that would be unpleasant that wouldn't be an affliction, that could disturb the mind stream externally. So this is specifically something that arises in the mind stream that then causes this unpleasant state of mind. And if that is the case, if that kind of emotion arises, it's labeled as an affliction. Khensur Rinpoche. Losing my nose.
다왕아다 담행아도 주시그죠. 교도 와데 라리 사질 시부도와 와데 다왕아다 담행아도 줘서나 뇌차지 공도지 나제지 마리바다 터종당 지다당 안에 탄진지 다와 안에 다와 중진 추진도 두유 중진 로다 와데 주들래 녀모조도 와데 녀모조
Ewang gare yancho surla dame
다왕아다 담행아서 다왕아 지다 타다 Jita the chap Kondo Ngaji, Yomuji Tawa Maribe. Yomuji Tawa de la Nashi Urga, Jita Tata Luta, Fitting to use the Nashi Ure. The chap Yomu Sanyu Tosumarin, the chap Kondo Ngaji, Yomuji Mariba, Yomuji Tawa, Trushigro, True on the Tawa Naja on the children. The chap Kondo Ngaji, Yomuji Mariba, Yomuji Tawa. Nyomuji Tawa de Naja on du, and the children won't you. Nyomuchi to water it. Then the Sajin Dranshu and Dua, the chap Kondo Ngaji, Nyomuji Mariba, Tazon Jita, Tazi Tawa, Tawa Chunzi, Chudi Chunzi, Luda was what the Kusu Saji Tensha, no Kusu the Dranshu.
Then Tambonga Dawa
Tawanga, Tamingas.
Dame
Sibi Zawa Taji Tos, Sibi Zawa Taji to Kud Zawa Nyomutla True Wars, the Cha Kondo Naje, Nyomuji Mariba, Nyomuji Tawa, Nyomuji Tazon to Marba. Nyomuji Tawa the Langaja on the children to the job. Nyomuji Tawa the Naja to Taji Chus water.
So here we have the specific definitions of the 10 afflictions are as follows. So we have those that are views and then those that are not views. At the break I want to look something up here. This is breaks down into two categories. That one is a view that then causes the attachment. Then a ducha, control, Namgyal, Maripa, Tetsum.
What the origin of the Sajin do Sajin?
Then a
Consul Sajid then or the Loshan Dig, the Egypt.
Then the Dawanga, Ducha, control, Namgyal, Maripa, Tetsum.
Yomuji Mariba, Yomuji Tawa. Yomuji Tawa, so what the Tawa de la Nation of the children to Marba. Sibis or Taji to Yomuchushia, Trushia, Trugan Tanga.
So the 5 views, I'm just going to look it up, I don't want to waste any more time, but the 5 views are those that give rise to the other afflictions. So there are 5 views, but it sounds like attachment, hostility, pride, afflicted ignorance, nyomo, afflicted view, nyomo dawa, dene drupa. Nyomo Mariba, Nyomo Dawa.
Deja Kondo, Nyomoji Mariba, Nyomoji Dawa, Nyomoji Tazon.
And then
what the Drew Marba?
Afflicted doubt and afflicted view. So there are 6 that then give rise to cyclic existence. So attachment, hostility, pride, afflicted ignorance, afflicted doubt, and afflictive view. Those 6 things give rise to the other afflictions.
So the
reason they're called views is because they're wrong views that give rise to these afflictions, these afflictions, yeah. So these are So here we have extremist view, belief in the supremacy of wrong views, belief in the supremacy of ethics and religious discipline, wrong view, and afflicted. See, it's not in the same order. I just need to spend a minute with a break with information. Rinpoche is saying read the outline, but it's not seeming to match up with the words exactly, and it's I'm sure my fault, but I just need a minute to look at it. So we're on page 299. The Losar, the Jew Lobsang. The Khensur the trunk Hakodu.
Oh yeah. What the that what the Saji Juderedwa? what the Taji to the Chachi, Konduji, Najeji, Mariba, Tazon, Jita, Tanzin Jitawa, Tawa Chunzin, shooting the two Chun Lota, or the Chudre Dua, Chudre water.
So the 10 that are listed in the Lamrim Chenmo are attachment, hostility, pride, ignorance, doubt, the reifying view of the perishing aggregates, an extremist view of belief in the supremacy of wrong views, a belief in the supremacy of ethics and religious discipline, and then wrong view. So I just looked at in the moment. The root afflictions are desire, anger, pride, ignorance, doubt, and afflicted view. And then the afflicted view will then have these categories, I think I understand now, which we find here related to view. So now we'll go through slowly each individual affliction's definition. So that's what we go through now.
So we would
say posit the definition of attachment, posit the definition of doubt, posit the definition of hostility. So we would, if we were asked to posit them, then we would give these definitions here.
다 도모 되차 전이 쇼선들에 있다. 되차 전이 쇼선 되차네 셔 나기 유도바 이동와라 미네 제수 되차데 네 셔 나기 유도바 이동와라 미네 제수 차바데 버나리라 통셔바 용가와 진도세 용가와지도 대하라기 미발라 신진 치바네 미바다다 제가와오스 와드바 되샤가 전이 되고 왔다 그나가서 제일 통쇼샤바이나 너한테 착각으로 다고 되는 죄는 말বে 어떤 되샤서 된다고 아레스 되샤가 유대 이동화 절면에 되샤 제그레스 두바 여바 마이나 되샤 여바 칼란주스 오마자와시라 두바 여바 마이나 되샤 여바 칼란주스 유두바 이동화 통화드메나 되샤 용 말레스 되샤 이동화 통화라 때네 되샤 정우레 이동화 통화라 때네 콘주 정우레스 어때 모두 여바 마이나 시당 여바 칼란주 자와시로 온도스 때네 자마르바.
So now we'll have the specific definitions of each one. So we have, just going back, there are the 5 views and 5 non-views. From the 5 views spring those non-views. So we're looking at the root afflictions. We have desire, anger, pride, ignorance, doubt, and afflicted view. There's 6 there. So afflicted view, within that category, we then find these other views. So we start with attachment. Means noticing a pleasant or attractive external or internal object and desiring it. When attachment clings to its object and grows stronger, it is hard to tear yourself away from its object, just as it's difficult to remove oil which has been soaked into a cloth. So in order for attachment to occur, it's necessary for there to be a desirous object that one finds attractive. So we find in Nagarjuna's root wisdom text that states this, that if there is this desirous object, then there is attachment. If there's no desirous object, then there is no attachment. So it says a pleasant or attractive external or internal object and desiring it. So this is how it qualifies as attachment. Is that you've recognized or apprehended in some way this thing that you find attractive, and then attachment can arise. Without that, it can't. And it says, when attachment clings to its object and grows stronger, it is hard to tear yourself away from the object, just as it is difficult to remove oil. So if we had maybe a white cloth and it had gotten stained with some oil, it would be very difficult to extract that oil from the cloth because it's really soaked in. Likewise, when attachment occurs, we have this real difficulty separating ourselves from what we are attached to, in the same way that it would be difficult to remove that oil because it's almost it was soaked into us. It's permeates us. So we'll take a short break. It's time for snack. Less so. Less so.
He don't want to be Jebasama. He don't want to be Jebasama. He don't want the more cemetery marbe. Some of the Sudesha investance, and he don't want she will look and go on the shy in Lojimudua. He don't want a mean, he don't want to live in the shy and the Lulu seeing orders. He don't want a mean, and then Haba he don't want what the he don't want to. She legis inside the Jill and the Shalagre. He don't want Sheba Sanjin to Shaim, Chabayo Maris. He don't want to be Samay waters. He don't want your bezer. He don't want your bezer. What the long water. He don't want a minute. The Shajers on the he don't want she be looking on the Shayim Barasa. Tangio Maris.
Conga Dangio.
He don't want to be Samato with the Shamarwater. He don't want a minute.
Sanjay the year.
Sanjay le Euro.
Ale, okay.
But he don't want a minute, and then Haba he don't want. Couldn't know to the Shalu shade it. Haba he don't want.
Oh, okay, higher then. So we have then now the specific definitions of the 10 afflictions here presented, and we begin with the first definition, which is of attachment. So it says attachment means noticing a pleasant or attractive external or internal object and desiring it. When attachment clings to its object and grows stronger, it's hard to tear yourself away from the object, just as it is difficult to remove oil which has been soaked in cloth. So we can't say that if it is noticing a pleasant object, that it is necessarily then attachment. Because, for instance, a Buddha can see something that is attractive and sees it as attractive. It's the heightened, not reasonable look at that object's attractiveness that is attachment. So it's this heightened kind of look at it, and this heightened attractiveness that then causes this attachment. So it isn't if there is an object that one sees, is there attachment present if there's an attractive object? And that is no, not necessarily so, because just seeing that attractiveness isn't the attachment. It's actually has to be this exacerbated or this heightened kind of idea of its attractiveness that then gives rise to that. Okay.
도차네 샹나기 네 유두바라 두바 이동와라 미네 제수 차바데 유두바스나 요로 두바 요리 이동와 요더보다
Leso.
달라미네 사바 이동와 다유 실리진 사중데 도차리스 로로시레스本来这了同说吧，用高人多的呀，让给没把了现金切把的，没把它当这高我啥，人同说吧，大不，我的把手的看到就蛮多啊，我的对下个菜呢，我都不得了。
So the definition of attachment means noticing a pleasant or attractive external or internal object and desiring it. When attachment clings to its object and grows stronger, it is hard to tear yourself away from the object, just as it is difficult to remove oil which has been soaked in a cloth. So this is the definition of attachment in the great treatise. Shima Duchani Shima Nangi Yu Dupa Dixon.
但你把控制层面的多，控制层面真的这样多。
Control ne.
control呢，现在那当，控制没把说是那现在里面的控制啷个有的是，六年里面的控制啷个的是，春夏里面的控制啷个的是，什么数里面的，什么是我就刚把说的真的有了的，我这里面呢，数了六年级。那那了米呢？过年那三把的，过年那三把，做么那做么，有的了，那把下三把，那把下三把我的控制没把真的这了米呢，那我的这了那把现在写了一些三种的控制嘛对吧？control 呢，世界里面的 control 有的，世界里面呢，那移动某的那通呢，那 control 啷个的嘛对吧？六年里面呢，过移动某这样面呢 control 啷个有的，春夏里面呢，那我们大老说吧，都是里面那 control 啷个有的的，什么说了，什么刚把说呢，那啥当个我这里面 control 啷个，六年级。那了米呢？过年那三把，三做么的，三做么，两不嘛的，三做么，有的了，那把小三把我是那把小，有的了，那把相对给，现在进三入的就控制了个什么的呗。
So now we we have the definition of hostility. Hostility means observing origins of suffering, such as living beings, pain, weapons, or thorns, and giving rise to a harsh, tormented mind that contemplates harming these objects. So one can become angry at sentient beings. One can be angry at pain or suffering itself. One has as an object pain and becomes angry. Or weapons, or thorns. So, for instance, a thorn when you're walking could go into your foot, and then that thorn gives rise to your anger. And it says, in giving rise to a harsh, tormented mind. So, a mind that is very unpleasant, that contemplates harming these objects. So, here you become angry at these objects. You see a sentient being that you find not attractive to you, or distasteful. Then you have anger that arises. So this is what is meant by hostility.
So
there has to be this distasteful or unattractive apprehension, or the sentient being has to be apprehended to be unattractive in order for this anger to take place. If there isn't this attractive, this attraction, rather, that's it. If there isn't this attraction, I'm sorry, the opposite. If there isn't this distasteful feeling present, then there isn't anger. Anger is not possible to arise. So there has to be this distasteful feeling for that sentient being in order for the anger to arise. If it's not present, it can't arise.
What the na kontu lamba te yidu mo tseli deba na lulu shi ne wade du nama wade ne jitone ane no wade lulu shi res marba yidu mo yoro wada yidu mo shebe lode sanji jula yoro sanji julu kontu yosan jiga mudwa yidu mo tombo lo yobe chaba majo yidu mo tseli deba jigo res ne mede lon lamba yina mede yidu mo tseli deba Lulu Jeda Gande.
Sela de Hapa. Sela de Ba.
Yidu Mo, no natural member, Yidu Mochi, Tondo, what the Lulu Jeda Shagu contribute.
So the object of hostility has to be something that is found to be distasteful. There has to be this distaste for the object in order for this to arise. And we don't say dene de control the sanje the yitmo tondo
sanje ju yitmo tondo yitmo yebesher jitro sanje tondo chagro yitmo ju sanje tondo jitro besher sanje yitmo tondo sanje ju kondu jijir lagro yitmo yu tselen debi yitmo tondo.
Okay, so if it is ascertained as distasteful, then it isn't necessarily mean that it gives rise to this anger. There has to be this over kind of emphasis on its distastefulness in order for this anger to arise. So the reason that we say this is because we say the subject Buddha. The subject Buddha can see something that's distasteful because it's an object of comprehension. The Buddha cognizes all phenomena, cognizes all objects of comprehension. Therefore, since it's an object of comprehension, actually, I think it's an established base. Yeah, that's what it is. Because it's an established base, which is synonymous with object of comprehension and all of these other words, phenomena, these are all synonymous as a note. So because it is an object of comprehension, or an established base, it therefore is cognized by the Buddha, and the Buddha doesn't have anger. So just this apprehension or cognition of the distastefulness of an object isn't enough. There has to be this kind of over-emphasis on it from the side of the person that gives rise to that anger. Digsun.
That somba ngaje chenye marbe ngaje nyomo somba ngaje chenye shosana jita la tentes ngaje ge jodo ten jita rendo jita la tente shenga na gi chume tan shi chu do meba na gi chu dan shi chu zangwa da ya ba meba na gi chu ne ya ga da do ha what the mean what the ngaje jingures jita la tente shenga na gi tume dans shi tume dan shi tume sana shi chu ya ga da do ha na gi tume sana na gi chu ya ga da do ga tume zangya la mine sen kimba des ngaje do sen kimba kimbi chileji sen ju do de ngaje ge sen res ngaje kimba jaba na rang chula chabi chun sen yu su to ba ngaje kimba so de shida na ge chu zangya la mine kimba da rang chu wo de ka de zo zam na je ba na nga shi bin sa ma ji ge wo de ngaje sang lu yong wo jiro ngaje kimba shi chu zang ta do ba na ge chu zang ta do ba la mi ne sen kimba wo de ne kimbi
nga sen kimba
nga chu yin sang ba ji men do a shi chu zang ta ngemba la mi ne wo de chu yin yang ba ya bu shi da yin yang ba sen kin ne kimba tani jila ngaje logres ngaje kimbas nga so nga je ne che ba ina to so ta nga ngal ju den su su den de ju ba ina nga je che gre zu je ba ne ju ba ina nga je che gre ko nga je ndam na mo che bu de o de jong o du sang lu de ga de je le go de tan de se du wa ta
Nene nga shera ducha du nanja yong du
nga do cha yin se na yo sa de ta na nga le ju me nya be nga je ju sa de
ale
ju ju ba ina nga le ju yo ma re sa ba nga je ju sa de yo so ya den ju ma ge le.
So now pride means observing either internally or externally qualities that are high, low, good or bad, and based upon the reifying view of the perishing aggregates, allowing your mind to become inflated. You assume an aspect of superiority. So internally, your mind, you feel this kind of a feeling of superiority to qualities that are high or low, or good or bad, because you have this kind of root, which is this reifying view of the perishing aggregates that then says, oh, my body, from an outer perspective, my body is so beautiful. I have all of this, I have this wonderful form, and so forth. And internally, my mind is better than others. I know I'm higher than others. So we have these outer things we become prideful about, and then these inner qualities that we become prideful about. So it says your mind becomes inflated, and then you assume an aspect of superiority, and that comes from the reifying view of the perishing aggregates.
And the guy come but the
My house is very good. My car is very good.
Government.
Oh, my government is very good. My car, my house, my government. These would be the she. These are external. So I'm American, so I have pride, Rinpoche said. So there are many examples similar to this. So you think to yourself, I'm beautiful, my form is wonderful, my government is the best, and then you have this pride that arises because you feel this sense of superiority because of it. So we finished attachment, hostility, and pride, those three, and now we get to 4, which is ignorance.
Ta maribata lendela mo maribata te konani la mariba ni yo marbe de lendela mo maribata rabu modwe lendela mo ba konchu ta den o de demba jetan le junde tan konchu ga rajin la lu mesiyus ya ba shego marbata meshe be shele jin sa jo odan jila lendela mo mariba sagres 저 ngama yue to me ngasul me sheba jin do ta le junde wo tu so san da ngasul me sheba mu do ta le ndel mo me sheba so to sin sa marba o de le ndel mo me sheba tin sa de.
So ignorance means possessing the affliction of misunderstanding on the account of a mind that is unclear about the nature of the 4 truths, karma and its effects, and the 3 jewels. So this misunderstanding is a mental factor. And then when we look at this word ignorance, it can be divided into 2 categories. Ignorance, which is an obscuration with respect to karma and its results, or karma and its effects, and then ignorance, which is an obscuration related to suchness, or the nature of reality. So these are the 2 kinds of ignorance, and it looks like here the type of ignorance is being spoken of is the ignorance which is an obscuration related to karma and its effects, because within that we then have these other points. There is no past life or future life. There is no karma. There is no result of action, etc. There are no 3 jewels. So this is a misunderstanding that's related to this. So we don't understand these things. There are these large gaps of unknowing of not knowing, rather, related to these objects. Do you see? So here, then when we would look at the three jewels and karma and its results and say, I don't know about these. Well, I don't understand these things. I don't know about these things. Masheba, I don't know these things. You don't know these things. So this is what ignorance is referring to. So among the two types of ignorance which is an obscuration about karma and its results, and ignorance which is an obscuration related to suchness, this is referring to that ignorance which is related to karma and its results.
Denpasu sung la mi ne yue dang me nyang ne mi na ina mi nyang pa os tuzung tsenye olori le la be ro rayu la tubi riba tuzung tsenye res rayu ina mi ku tuba sa de go ro rayu la tubi riba tuzung tsenye tuzung la ina Denmenju tezong, denju tezong, chanya tezong, tezong la ina song yue se, lori no yue.
Ni kanga yure. Ni Jason. Ni kanga kersa. I'm like grasping for all these definitions, and they're all right here. Sorry. Now we've gone through the first four: attachment, hostility, pride, ignorance, and now we've got to number 5, which is doubt. And when we look at the mind and awareness text, we find the definition of doubt, which means that one is uncertain in terms of the object of apprehension. And when we divide it up, we find that there are 3 categories according to the mind and awareness text. There is first the category doubt tending towards false, equal doubt, and then doubt tending towards truth. So there are 3 categories in the Lorig related to doubt, and that's how it's defined in an easy way. A certain uncertainty about the object, leaning towards false, equally uncertain about it, and then more leaning towards the truth. So these are the 3 categories that we find there. I guess I don't have it. Yes, Lai. They asked me if Lorig, mind and awareness, is in English, and it is. It's Mind in Tibetan Buddhism by Lati Rinpoche and Elizabeth Napper. So you could really become clear on it because it's in English, Rinpoche said. Less so.
Dat taga matas, dat tabare matas, dat matabaro, dat matabare de tazungsane, dat tabayina matabayina, pechi taba menro nyabe, shilejin sarujuro de, temeji tazungres, dat taga mata, pechi taga nyabe, pechi taba menro nyabe, shilejin sarujuro, temeji tazungres, lulu hinjiro da.
So when we look at the 3 categories of doubt, doubt tending towards false, equal doubt, and doubt tending towards truth, the first category, doubt tending towards false, would be this as follows. Is the self permanent or impermanent? The self is probably permanent. So this is a mistaken view. And it is tending towards false because it's tending towards the mistaken view. This doubt is. So this is that first category. Is the self impermanent or permanent? It's probably permanent. So that's that first category.
Matabar yu ji deng men ro a.
Ni ge chi chen.
Da ge mata pechi matabar men ro nya ta zong xue ro. Xie le xin sen ru de dong ju de zong res. pechi mata bareder hoda. Pechi mata kanya be tazon dote donju ji tazon res. Ku mata ba melo nya samba najin mata barota.
Then samba.
Samba cha nya be tazon re ta mata.
It just went in different order. Okay. That's it. Nika chikshena.
Taba ina mata ba yeme je de san cha nya pun de diken tazon ji ro de.
So then we have a doubt tending towards equal doubt, it's called. And with equal doubt, we're saying maybe the self is impermanent or maybe it's permanent. So it's an equal level amount of doubt. But if one were to say, is the self impermanent or permanent, and say it's probably impermanent, then this is doubt that's tending towards truth. So this is how doubt is divided.
Pension will Tony Yam, Tun Seba Inaya, Siba Rubisheba Jurus, Tony Tony Jabba, or the Tony Tun Chuna Deba Program Madru, Pechi Madru Yabe, Tun Seba Inaya, Quiz all new, would you take Muris, Siba Rubisheba Jurus, Jabba Marba.
Need Sampa. Need Sampa. We find in a text, possibly Arya Deva's 400 verses, but not Tetsum, not sure. We find a quote that says that even an ordinary being's, if an ordinary being even has a doubt about this thing called emptiness, then it shakes the roots of cyclic existence. So what that means is that in regards to emptiness, if even this doubt arises, are things truly established or not truly established? That one thought, that doubt about whether or not they are truly established, Arya Deva says, shakes cyclic existence, shakes samsara.
Tak docha kondro ngaje nyomoje jimari ba jichin tazon da ngachin zaro ngachin zata droba de jita marbe jita jisula tawane nyale humbula mine ngata ngai she data dagta yi shiro nyomoje nos nyale humbula mine nyale humbula mine ngata ngai she data dagta yi shiro nyomoje do de jita chenye de jita chenye Jita Raju Jingata Nayola means lawyer. Raju Jingata Jita Ina Jita Kazak Danzin Jiba in second G. Jita Kazak Danzin in Tadin in second G. Jita in a Kazak Danzin with Chelsea with the Omabatan Nepe Chujabas inside. Jita in a Kazak Danzin with Chelsea. Chelsea du Ngata Nayola mine ne Ngata Batrubanzimbi, Sharon Yumuji. Ngala mine Ngar on Trubanzimba. Ngala mine Ngara on Trubanzimba, what then Chilla, Sharon Yumuji and Jita Lagres. Talapa Ngayimba, Kamba Ngayimba, mine, Deba Trubanzim, Sharon Yumuji, Jorote, ten Jitares, Ngayawanzim Jitares, Ngayawa, Laba Ngayiwa. Kamba Ngayimba, Yimba te, Deba Trubanzim, Sharon Yumuji, Ngayawanzim Jitares. Omaba Tawate, Omi Chatu Solen Jitala Kazak Danzim Chaus. Ngayawanzim Jitatia, Kazak Danzis. Laba Ngayimba, Rangon Trubanzim, doing Ngala mean the Rangon Trubanzim Guriste. Laba Ngayimba. Deba Trubanzim do. Not about to one in the Kazak dances. Jita in the Kazak dancing Chaos. Pechu Jabata Omaba so soon as water. Takante Raju Jingata Nayo Corona Mines Ramon Rubanzimi, Sharon Yomujente, Jita Cheni is Jita Cheni. Nala Mene, Nar Ramon Jubanzi Shira Mochen Churo, Jita is. Jita and Ngalamigu, not a Nayo, Nayo Lamina and Ngalamigu. Jita in a Kazak Danim chose. What the Secretary?
Bless up.
Kazak Rank Saint was Euro. Kazak Danziro, Jita Mai. Jita in a Kazak Danzim, Kazak Danzin in the Jita in Macha. Kazak Jenda Demo was Denzita, Kazak Danziro.
Kansak agenda Dembi Drupi Dazing.
Denziro.
Denzin.
Denjita Maite and Ngalama Mibejera. What is so good?
Okay, I get it, I think. So we now go to number 6, the reifying view of the perishing aggregates. Is an afflictive intelligence that observes the appropriated aggregates and regards them as I or mine, that is, as the self or that which belongs to the self. Here, since perishing means impermanent and aggregates is plural, the terms indicate that what are appropriated are simply impermanent and multiple phenomena. There is no permanent unitary person. This is why it is called the view of the perishing aggregates. So here there is this observation of I, and then there is an observation of mind. And in the middle way, Madhyamaka school, Chuji Drapa, Dharma, Chuji Drapa. The Chuji Drapa, Dharmakirti, okay, I've lost it for a minute. So Dharmakirti states that if it is the view of reifying view of the perishing aggregates, it's necessarily grasping at the person as truth, as having true self, kansakadazin, grasping at the person as having true self, but it's stated that the grasping at the person as having a true self is not necessarily the reifying view of the perishing aggregates, because it requires there to be I or mine. If we were to say posit that which is not the reifying view of the perishing aggregates, but is grasping at the person as having a true self, we would say someone else is grasping at their person as having true self. That is grasping at the person as having true self, but it's not a reifying view of the perishing aggregates, because it's not my view. It's not mine specifically. So we can come up with a subject which is A but not B, which is this grasping at the person as having a true self, but not the reifying view. The reifying view requires this idea of I and mine, and that has to be there in order for it to qualify as this. Now, this believing that the I have this intrinsic or inherent existence, I am truly established, and these I have these things. This is my hand. This is my company. These are my things. All of these would be considered grasping at the person as having true self. And so therefore would be in this case, and in this case also the reifying view of the perishing aggregates. But again, we do have examples where we have this person grasping at the person as truly established, where there is an absence of this reifying view, and that would be someone else's other than yours would be different. Because then that wouldn't be I or mine. It has to be specific to oneself and his or her apprehension of things, his or her things.
Tanjita Namasanji Rutama Jiro, Rutama Shirama, Ludaba, Sansamba, Omaba. Tashirama, Ludaba, to Jita, Raju Jingala Mine, Raja to be Zed, Jubanzimba to Raja to be Zed, Jubanzimba. Homo Gozwala Madiva Radu with that. And the Kazak Dame Raba, the Kazak Da Raba, Raba Lemijita in Jere. Tas has on but Jen Jita to one Jita or there. Sazan be Denzin, Sazan be Shuriton Juba. Or Telinjita Shawin, Omabagi, Raju Jingala Mine, Deba Jubanzimi, Sheran Yumuchin, Telinjita Jadre.
So in the four different schools, we find different ideas of what this reifying view of the perishing aggregates is. It's the middle way, the Madhyamaka, the middle way school, where we find it is this grasping at oneself as being truly established, and then grasping at the things as I, as mine. That is the reifying view of the perishing aggregates. And then we have different views in the other tenets. So the Vaibhashika school and the Sutra school have a very coarse understanding of the selflessness of a person. And then the mind-only school has a different view that is exclusive to just the mind itself. As this creator, but the middle way school states that it's this misunderstanding of the I and this belief of its inherent existence that causes this mind to occur, and that is the reifying view of the perishing aggregates.
단 지수라 따와서 지금 세시 나고도 어떤 도바사그를 공부해. 달란 지바는 마다바로 고고레스 지바. 지수라 따와 지바도 마다바로 고고레스. 지바는 마다바다. 초바서야 되네. 도마인베스. 마다바 도마 초바. 마다바 뭐지 뒤바. 근데 나라 메스나 나데 나 pomponga 초바를 뛰는 따바 말이야. 어떤지 고고를 송도 인사래. tala jiba na mataba tang, tsuba na toma yinbe, de kaala mebe jene mataba tangs, jita meba de mataba yingu res, mataba tang, tumi tsuzang yinches, tumi toman dube, wadana jile mege res, tsuzang yinches, taba tang jibi kanza me dosa, jita meba de taba yin se juye mare, taji rawa ji da se to ko juye mare, taba de jibi kanza me to jida me ba de la taba sha juye mare, taji rawa jibu se da de sha juye mare, kanza ne me to she ten bi she to jisu la tawa she me ta so jisu la tawa me taba res goba kares na goba ti che to res ane
Jutsun
gubandi che to res ro telan jiba na mata ba suban to ma yembe de kala mebe jene mata ba ta to mi tu do yin che ta ba de jibi ra jin ma yin nos wote Dibi che to jisu la tawa she me ta bu goba teres ta goba te mataba tang tsoba toman duba yinbe di tala tayi ne shin mataba tang tomi tsoba yinche taba tang jibi kansan me to waze tal duba yoje wata kabi che to song res tenbi che to jisu la tawa she me ta sos wata jita wata batsan
The reifying view of the perishing aggregates. So we have first this definition, and then we find the breakdown of the word. So there's a doubt that might occur about why it is called what it is. So it says here, since perishing means impermanent, and it aggregates is plural. So it has to be, this impermanence is a qualification. It has to be impermanent in order for it to be this view of the perishing, reifying view of the perishing aggregates. And it needs to, the aggregates have to be plural because it's based on this collection that comes together, that there is this designation that one believes has this single unitary nature, but it doesn't, because it says the terms indicate that what are apprehended are simply impermanent and multiple phenomena. There is no permanent and unitary person. So there's this collection that comes together. It's multiple phenomena coming together. This is why it is called the view of the perishing aggregate. So Geshe Rinpoche, if there are any doubts, shows why it's perishing, and shows why this word aggregates is pluralized in the Tibetan.
타오드 타다가 전이래도 타다와 타다가 전이네 단도차 콘로 나제 녀모제지 말이바 녀모지 좀 지다 차로 조차차래 다 뉘바디 녀모제지 된 녀모제지 탄진도 말이바 탄진비 타와 탄진비 타원데 고고르스 지데 간라 좀유 다데 지다 미바 다로다 지다 그다라 미는 what 탄진데 지다 간라 미 다데 지다 간라 미 다데와 다달라 미네 따바 터주바온데네 시만이 선주와 매비 치바다 이셔로 녀모제 치다서도 것들스 지다 간라 미 다데 따바레스 네 따바레스로와 and hamayo mar shamayo mar mebatago res kalazo data mine taba tuzuba dene shama ni son jugu mares da sheson junchen jampe ba mama sho juba jins mama sheson den charota jampe ga shisa ju chare jo hamade shaman rugen jo yo mar jibata what the jampe ba to so julun yesarota 내성조 maybe chebatаю sheronya mojen wotanjila tatala gres tata.
So now we've gone through attachment, hostility, pride, afflicted ignorance, afflicted doubt, and then the reifying view of the perishing aggregates, and now we move to an extremist view. And we find in the cases of nihilists, for instance, where we have these extremist views, there is no past or future life. When one dies, it's like a butter lamp being blown out. It's just gone, and that there isn't this reoccurring cycle. So here it says an extremist view is an afflictive intelligence that observes the self apprehended by the view of perishing aggregates and regards that self as either permanent and external, or as subject to annihilation in such a way that there will be no rebirth from this life into a future life. Then John Pema Jewa Shema Yom Jewa Gewa Keomai.
Mama Shua Nabres, Jushin
So there is this belief in the nihilists that it's just like a butter lamp going out. It says here, and Rinpoche reread this, is an afflictive intelligence that observes the self as apprehended by the view of the perishing aggregates and regards that self as either permanent and external, or as subject to annihilation. So it says permanent, or something outside, or subject to annihilation in such a way that there will be no rebirth from this life into a future. So that subject to annihilation is the part that Rinpoche is talking about in regards to the nihilists, where they believe it's like this lamp just going out. Natsu Karmaji. So we'll take, no we won't, we will end class there, we won't go forward, we'll slowly go through these and we'll get to it next week. So if everybody wants to turn to the concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer, and we'll get to that next. There's one or two things that I'd like to look up from class today. Very small things, but if I find the points, I'll bring them for next week. It was just related to the views of the lower schools. I just don't want to translate it wrong. It's like 1 point, very little. But still, it's important because Rinpoche said it. So concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Dedicate all these Jew to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri, and likewise Samantabhadra as well, with whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the three times. I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In that pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. All-powerful Avalokiteshvara Tenzin Gyatso, may you stay until samsara's end. I pray for the long life of the precious Khensur Wandak, upholder of scriptural and realizational doctrines, a spiritual friend who trained extensively in the 5 great philosophical texts with exceptional wisdom and perseverance. Tiju Rinpoche Gutsi Shapi Denonan, Natsuk Lamrim Chenmo Kanga Truyonan.